Ladies and gentlemen, we've all been there. We set goals, we make plans, we feel motivated, but then something happens. Life gets in the way, we make excuses, and before we know it, a week, a month, or even a year passes, and we're still stuck in the same place. I want to start with a simple truth. Excuses are easy, execution is hard, but that's exactly why today we're going to talk about making that shift. Moving from excuses to execution. How do we stop talking about what we could do and start doing what we should do? How do we turn our intentions into action? Let me share something that I think will resonate with all of you. A few years ago, I met a young entrepreneur named Jessica. She had this amazing idea for a tech startup, something that could genuinely change the way people work from home. Every time I spoke to her, she was full of passion and enthusiasm. She'd talk about her dreams, her vision, and how her product could revolutionize the industry. But here's the thing, she had been telling me about this idea for 3 years. 3 years. And yet she hadn't launched her product. Why? Because she was always waiting for the perfect moment. She was waiting for the technology to be just right, for the marketing budget to be larger, for everything to line up perfectly. But here's what Jessica didn't understand. The perfect moment will never come. And by waiting, she wasn't just delaying her success, she was allowing excuses to rob her of the opportunity to act. Execution doesn't come when conditions are perfect. It comes when we stop waiting for the right moment and we start moving despite the uncertainty. That's what we're going to focus on today, how to get from excuses to execution and take real action this week. We all have dreams, big ones. We have ideas that could change the world, transform our lives, and make us proud. But here's the hard truth. Those ideas will never come to life unless we stop waiting for the perfect moment. There's this common misconception we all fall into, the idea that there's some ideal time, the right set of circumstances, the perfect moment when everything will align, and then we can finally take action. But here's the reality. The perfect moment does not exist. I want you to think about Apple for a second. The company we now know as a symbol of innovation, sleek design, and cutting-edge technology didn't start in a polished office with a polished plan. It didn't start with a team of experts and endless resources. It started in a small garage with two men, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, trying to build something they believed could make a difference. What they created wasn't perfect. In fact, the first Apple computer was far from the product we admire today. It was rough, crude, and messy, but they didn't wait for everything to fall into place. They didn't wait for the perfect design or the perfect technology. They built, they launched, they made mistakes, and they learned. And that's the point. They acted. They took the first step without knowing exactly what would happen next. They didn't wait until they had everything figured out. They took action despite the chaos, despite the uncertainty, and they learned as they went along. I know it's tempting to wait for everything to be perfect before taking action. I've done it too. We tell ourselves that we'll start when we have more money, more time, more experience. We wait for the right opportunity to come along as though it will magically appear one day. But the truth is, that day will never come. We have to create the opportunity ourselves. Action is what breeds momentum. Momentum is what turns a simple idea into reality. Think about it. The more we wait, the more we paralyze ourselves. The more we tell ourselves that we need everything to be just right, the longer we stay stuck in the same place. I want you to think about a time when you finally took action on something you've been putting off. Maybe it was starting a project, launching a business, or simply making a tough decision. When you finally moved, things began to happen. You gained clarity, you made connections, you saw opportunities you hadn't noticed before. That is the power of action. And the more you take, the more you'll build. Look at the history of every groundbreaking company, every breakthrough idea, every successful individual. You'll notice one thing they all have in common. They didn't wait for perfection. They acted in the face of uncertainty, and they took steps forward no matter how small. They understood that there is no perfect moment. There is only the moment you choose to act. I know that action can feel intimidating, especially when we're uncertain or fearful of failure. But the truth is, we all have that fear. We all wonder if we're making the right choice, if it will work out. But here's the kicker, waiting only feeds that fear. The more we wait, the stronger that fear becomes. The only way to overcome it is to take the leap, even when we don't have all the answers. Here's something else that happens when you act. You start to create momentum, and with momentum comes progress. It's like trying to push a boulder up a hill. At first, it's incredibly hard to get it moving. But once you give it that first push, once you make the first move, it starts to roll. And then you get to see the magic of the journey unfold. This is why so many people, whether entrepreneurs, artists, or professionals, tell you that the first step is the hardest, but it's the one that changes everything. The act of beginning is what sets everything else in motion. The act of stepping into the unknown without a guarantee of success is where the power lies. The key here is to not wait for the ideal circumstances. You don't need everything to be perfect. In fact, you probably shouldn't wait for it to be perfect because perfection is an illusion. The only thing that matters is the decision to act, to push yourself forward despite the imperfections. It's through doing that you gain the experience, the wisdom, and the growth that can't come from waiting. And I promise you this, when you look back a few months or a few years from now, you will be thankful that you didn't wait. You'll be proud of the steps you took and the lessons you learned along the way. The only thing you will regret is not starting sooner. So take that first step. And don't wait for the perfect moment. Stop telling yourself that you'll start when everything aligns. Start now in the mess, in the uncertainty, in the imperfection, because it's the act of beginning that will bring you everything you need to succeed. Remember, waiting for the perfect moment is just another excuse to stay stuck. Action is the only thing that will move you forward. And if you're willing to act right now, not tomorrow, not next year, you'll find that momentum carries you much further than you ever imagined. So stop waiting and start moving. Your future self will thank you. How many times have you found yourself stuck, overwhelmed by a problem and thought, I can't do this? Maybe it's a project at work, an ambitious goal, or something personal, and the challenges just seem too great to overcome. That voice inside your head, the one that says, this is too hard, or I'm not good enough, is something we've all heard. And if we're honest, we've all listened to it at one time or another. It's easy to feel trapped by those thoughts. We all encounter obstacles in our lives, whether they're big or small. The key, though, isn't in avoiding obstacles, it's in how we respond to them. You see, it's all too simple to let those thoughts of limitation take over. When we say things like, I can't, we are essentially locking ourselves into a box. Those words don't just describe our abilities, they confine them. They tell us that the problem is too big, too complicated, or that we're not capable. But here's the truth. When you say, I can't, you are giving up before you even begin. You're letting the obstacle define you instead of defining yourself by the way you approach the obstacle. Now, imagine for a moment that instead of hearing that voice that says, I can't, you hear something different. What if, instead of I can't, you ask yourself, how can I? What if instead of accepting that a challenge is insurmountable, you begin thinking about how to break it down and move forward? What if we could reframe every problem as an opportunity to learn, adapt, and grow? Let me give you a story about Thomas Edison. Most of us know him as the brilliant inventor who gave us the light bulb. But what we often forget is how many failures came before that breakthrough. In fact, Edison faced over 1,000 failed attempts before he found the right filament for the light bulb. 1,000 failures. And yet, when asked about these failures, Edison said something profound. He didn't lament his mistakes. He didn't say he'd failed 1,000 times. He said, I have not failed. I've just found 1,000 ways that won't work. That mindset, choosing to see every failure as a lesson rather than a defeat, is the key to success. Edison wasn't focused on the obstacles in front of him. He was focused on how to overcome them. Instead of letting the failure define him, he redefined the failure as a step in the process, a way to move closer to the solution. It wasn't the challenge that stopped him, it was the mindset he chose to adopt in the face of those challenges that made all the difference. Now, think about your own challenges. How often do you frame your obstacles as roadblocks, as things that are too big to overcome? How many times do you let that internal voice take over and tell you that you can't? What if, instead of looking at the problem and saying, this is too difficult, you ask yourself, how can I overcome this? What steps can I take to make this work? The shift in thinking is powerful because it opens up possibilities. The way you approach a problem is directly linked to how you perceive it. If you walk into a room convinced you can't solve something, you're right. You won't. But if you walk in with a mindset that says, I may not have the answer right now, but I'll figure it out, you open yourself up to the opportunities that are always present but often unseen. This isn't just about positive thinking, it's about problem solving, about being creative, about seeing solutions even in the face of adversity. The way we ask ourselves questions shapes the way we tackle challenges. Think about it. When you face something tough, what question do you ask yourself? And do you ask, why is this happening to me? Or do you ask, what can I learn from this? And you say, I can't do this. Or do you say, how can I make this work? The power of reframing is in how it shifts the narrative from a victim mindset to a creator mindset. When you ask, how can I, you stop focusing on the limitations and start focusing on the possibilities. You stop seeing yourself as powerless and start seeing yourself as empowered. The simple change in perspective can be the difference between being stuck and moving forward. Consider how many people you know who have faced immense adversity yet overcame it because they chose to ask the right questions. Take J.K. Rowling, for example. Before she became one of the world's best-selling authors, she faced rejection after rejection. The Harry Potter manuscript was turned down by 12 different publishers. But instead of giving up, Rowling asked herself, how can I keep going? How can I improve this? She kept writing, kept pushing forward, and eventually the world got to experience one of the most beloved book series of all time. Or think about Michael Jordan, often considered the greatest basketball player ever. He was cut from his high school basketball team. Yet he didn't say, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. Instead, he asked himself, how can I become better? How can I use this setback to fuel my progress? His mindset led him to greatness. The truth is, you're capable of more than you realize, but only if you change how you approach the challenges in your life. Obstacles will always be there, but it's the way you view them that matters. If you see them as roadblocks, they will stop you. If you see them as opportunities for growth, you'll find a way forward. So I want you to ask yourself, how can I? How can I overcome this challenge? How can I use this situation to grow? How can I learn from my mistakes and push forward? The moment you start asking these questions, you'll find the path to success will begin to reveal itself. And the more you practice this mindset, the stronger it will become, until one day you'll look at challenges and see them for what they are, stepping stones on your path to greatness. We've all been there. We've set big goals, grand ambitions, dreams that excite us. But then almost immediately we're hit with the overwhelming reality of how much it's going to take. We look at the mountain in front of us and we think there's no way I can climb that. Whether it's starting a new business, getting healthier, or writing that book you've always wanted to write, the goal seems so massive, so out of reach that we freeze. We paralyze ourselves with the enormity of it all, and before we know it, we've done nothing. It's easy to fall into this trap. We convince ourselves that the task is too big, too complex, and too difficult. We get caught in the all or nothing mentality where we feel like if we can't achieve it perfectly, we shouldn't even try. But here's the truth, no goal, no matter how big, is achieved in one giant leap. It's about breaking it down into smaller, manageable pieces and focusing on what you can do today. When you think about achieving something big, it's essential to realize that it's not about doing everything at once. It's about the little steps, the small, consistent actions that make a real difference over time. Every successful journey begins with one small step. That's how things get done. I want to share a story with you, one that perfectly illustrates this point. There's a fascinating story about the British cycling team, who were at one time one of the most mediocre teams in the world. In fact, they hadn't won a Tour de France in over 100 years, but they were determined to change that. The coach, Sir Dave Brailsford, didn't try to overhaul everything at once. He didn't look at the big picture and say, we need to become the best cyclists in the world. Instead, he focused on making small improvements. He asked, what could we improve, even if it was just by 1%? So they started with the basics. They adjusted the tire pressure of their bikes. They changed the type of massage oils used on the athletes' bodies. They looked at their sleeping habits and made small changes in the way they slept. They adjusted the helmets to reduce drag. They even made changes to their nutrition. These weren't huge, dramatic changes, but over time, they began to add up. Every little improvement compounded, and as a result, within just 5 years, this cycling team went from being mediocre to dominating the world stage, winning multiple Olympic gold medals and Tour de France titles. What's the lesson here? It's not about making one grand gesture. It's about the power of incremental improvement. These small steps may seem insignificant at first, but over time, they build momentum and create the kind of change that can be truly transformative. And that's the same for your goals. Whatever it is that you're working towards, the key is to break it down. And don't try to do everything at once. Look at the task in front of you and think, what is the smallest thing I can do today to move myself closer to that big goal? And if you want to write a book, don't sit down and expect to finish a manuscript to finish in no. Instead, write one page today and then another tomorrow. That's it. Focus on writing 300 words instead of thinking about writing an entire chapter. Because here's the thing, those 300 words today will add up. And before you know it, you'll have written your first draft. The same applies to any large goal. If you want to get healthier, don't start with a complex workout regimen that intimidates you. Start with a 10-minute walk today, or choose one healthy meal instead of trying to completely overhaul your diet all at once. Each small step is progress. Each small decision is moving you closer to where you want to be. This isn't about doing it all perfectly, it's about doing something. So often we let the enormity of the goal prevent us from even starting. We think if I can't do it perfectly, then I shouldn't do it at all. But that's the trap. Perfection is an illusion. The only thing that matters is progress. The only thing that matters is moving forward, even if it's just a tiny step. If you're overwhelmed by the big goal in front of you, take a deep breath and break it down. Ask yourself, what is the smallest action I can take today that will move me forward? And then do it. It could be something as small as sending an email, making a phone call, doing one small task that gets you closer. But do it, because those small actions are the things that, when compounded, lead to big results. The key to achieving big goals isn't about overwhelming yourself with everything you need to do. It's about taking one step at a time and being consistent. Small steps add up, and before you know it, you'll look back and see how far you've come. Take a moment and think about your own life. Is there a big goal you've been putting off because it feels too big to tackle? Maybe it's a career change, a personal project, or a dream that's just out of reach. Now, I want you to pause and ask yourself, what's the smallest, simplest action I can take right now to move toward that goal? And don't worry about getting everything right. Don't worry about making it perfect. Just take one small step, and then another, and another. Over time, you'll be amazed at how much progress you've made. Each small step will take you closer to the life you want to live, to the success you're striving for. And remember, you don't have to do it all today. Just focus on today's step, and tomorrow focus on the next one. The big picture will take care of itself as long as you stay committed to the process. The British cycling team didn't win the Tour de France by trying to do everything at once. They won it by improving 1% every single day. So break it down, take one step at a time, and watch how the results will follow. When was the last time you made a commitment to yourself and didn't follow through? I know I've been there. We all have. It's easy to make promises to ourselves when the stakes feel low, when there's no one around to notice if we don't show up, no one to call us out if we slip. But here's the thing, we can't afford to let ourselves off the hook. There's a powerful force that drives people to take consistent action, and it's not self-discipline or willpower alone, it's accountability. And think about a time when you were part of a team. It could have been a work project, a sports team, or even a community group. When you were part of that team, you knew that your actions, whether you showed up or didn't, whether you did your part or slacked off, would affect everyone else. You were accountable to those people, and that pressure, that responsibility made you show up. It made you perform. It made you act. Now think about your own goals. How often have you set them with excitement, full of energy and optimism, only to fall off track a few days later? Without accountability, it's easy to let excuses take over. We tell ourselves that it's okay to skip one day, that we'll try again tomorrow. But tomorrow comes, and we're still stuck in the same place. That's the problem with working alone. There's no one to answer to, no one to hold us accountable. And so we let ourselves off the hook. But what if we didn't have that option? What if there was someone in our lives who would hold us to our commitments, who would ask, did you do what you said you were going to do? What if every day we knew there was someone waiting to see if we showed up and did the work? That pressure, sometimes uncomfortable, but always productive, is a powerful motivator. And let me give you an example. Think about the way we operate in a team setting. It doesn't matter if it's in sports or business or in our personal lives. When we are part of something bigger than ourselves, we perform. Whether it's a colleague relying on you to complete your part of a project, or a coach expecting you to show up for practice, or a team counting on you to give your best effort, there's a sense of responsibility. You know that your actions affect others, and when you have that awareness, you act. You don't let yourself off the hook because you know that it's not just about you, it's about the group, the mission, the success of everyone involved. Now, think about how you operate when you don't have that level of external accountability. Maybe it's a goal you set for yourself, like getting in shape or starting a business. How often do you skip a day because no one is there to hold you accountable? How often do you rationalize that one day off won't hurt, only to find that those one days off pile up until your progress is completely derailed? The power of accountability is real. It forces you to show up even when you don't feel like it. It pushes you to do the hard work, even when no one is watching. Accountability isn't just about answering to someone else, it's about showing yourself that you are someone worth keeping your word to. It's about proving that your word is as strong as your actions. So I want to challenge you today. Find someone who will hold you accountable. It doesn't have to be a boss or a formal mentor. Sometimes it can be a friend, a colleague, or even someone in your community who shares a similar goal. What's important is that you choose someone who will check in with you, someone who will ask, how are you doing with that goal you set? What have you accomplished today? What's your next step? Accountability is about more than just checking boxes or tracking progress. It's about building trust in yourself and trust in your commitment to others. When you share your goals with someone, when you know they're going to ask about your progress, you're more likely to follow through. And that's not just because you don't want to disappoint them, it's because you don't want to disappoint yourself. You don't want to be the person who doesn't keep their word. Think about a time when you had someone holding you accountable. Maybe it was a coach or a mentor who wouldn't let you quit, even when things got tough. Maybe it was a friend who pushed you to keep going when you were about to give up. And remember how much more you accomplished when you knew someone was counting on you. That's the power of accountability. Now it's time for you to create that same environment for yourself. Tell someone about your goals, share your vision with them, and ask them to check in with you regularly. You might feel uncomfortable at first. You might worry that it's too much pressure. But I promise you this, when you have someone who holds you accountable, you'll push yourself further than you ever thought possible. You'll stay on track, you'll keep making progress, and you'll find that achieving your goals becomes not just possible, but inevitable. When you commit to accountability, you are committing to your own success. You are committing to showing up, doing the work, and being someone who keeps their promises. You're proving that you're serious about your goals, serious about making a change, and serious about taking action. Accountability doesn't just keep you on track, it propels you forward one step at a time. So find someone to hold you accountable, share your goals, ask for help, and get ready to see what you can accomplish when someone else is there to remind you of your commitment. This week, I want you to make a commitment. It's not a big, dramatic gesture. It's something simple, something that can happen today. I want you to decide right now that no more waiting will happen. No more waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect conditions. Because the truth is, the perfect moment doesn't exist. We can wait for everything to align, for all the stars to line up perfectly, but it will never happen. If we keep waiting for that perfect time, we will never take the first step. You've probably been there before. I know I've been. We make grand plans, set big goals, and then, well, we wait. We wait until everything is just right. But here's the harsh reality. Waiting doesn't get you closer to your goals. It doesn't move you forward. It just keeps you stuck in the same place, letting the days slip by. You can keep waiting, but all that will happen is that time will pass and the dream will remain a dream. What's the alternative? It's action. It's taking one small step, no matter how insignificant it may seem at the time. It's deciding that today, right now, you will move forward, even if it's just an inch. I want you to think about your goal, whatever that thing is that you've been putting off, the dream that feels too big, too distant, or too impossible. And I want you to make a promise to yourself. You will not wait for the stars to align. You will take one step today, just one small action that will move you closer to that goal. This week, take that step. Break it down into something manageable. Because that's the other thing we often do. We look at the big picture and get overwhelmed. The task feels too enormous, too complex, and we get paralyzed. But that's just another excuse, another way of telling ourselves, I can't do it. But if we change our approach, if we break that big goal into smaller, manageable pieces, it suddenly feels more achievable. If you've ever been daunted by the thought of climbing a mountain, you know what I mean. Looking at the whole mountain can be overwhelming, but taking it one step at a time, that's how you reach the summit. You don't need to conquer the whole mountain in one day. You just need to start. You just need to focus on what you can do right now. Focus on today's task. Focus on today's step. And once you've taken that step, focus on tomorrow's. It's the power of small, consistent actions that will get you where you want to go. The most successful people didn't get there by making giant leaps. They got there by making tiny steps, one after the other. And eventually, those small actions added up to massive results. And here's the next thing I want you to remember. You don't have to do this alone. Accountability is one of the most powerful tools you can use. It's easy to let yourself off the hook when no one is watching. But when you have someone you're accountable to, when someone is waiting for you to show up, you show up. Whether it's a friend, a colleague or a mentor, find someone who will ask you about your progress, who will check in and make sure you're moving forward. When someone else is invested in your success, when they expect you to follow through, you're more likely to push past the resistance and keep going. How many times have you gotten further in your journey because someone else was counting on you? How many times did you show up because someone expected you to? That's the power of accountability. It forces you to act, to perform, and to make progress even when it's hard. But when there's no one to answer, to easy to see, to make excuses, to delay, to put things off, you've probably done it before, and I've certainly done it too. But when you bring someone else into the equation, it changes everything. So I challenge you today, find that person. Share your goal with them. Make a commitment to them and ask them to hold you accountable. Tell them you're going to take action this week and ask them to check in with you. It could be someone close to you, or it could be someone you respect who will push you to stay on track. Find someone who will hold you to your word, and then take that first step. You've got first step. You've got this. You have the power to take action, to make a difference in your own life. Excuses only keep you stuck. They keep you in the same place, the same cycle of thinking, the same loop of I can't. But when you choose to take action, when you commit to doing something, even just one thing, everything changes. It's the first step that matters, and once you take that step, the next one becomes easier. And then the next one, and the next one, until you look back and realize that those small steps turn into a journey of progress. So this week, let's commit to breaking free from the cycle of excuses. Let's commit to taking one step, just one that moves us closer to our goals. Let's commit to changing our mindset, to focusing on what we can do right now, and to making sure we have someone who will hold us accountable along the way. Excuses will keep you stuck in the same place, but execution is what will get you to where you want to go. You have everything you need right now to start. No more waiting. No more excuses. Just take that first step. Let this week be the week you turn your dreams into action. Let's get started. Thank you.